Oh, hi guys! Welcome to the Rusty Beauty's Garage and to the next episode of the 1971 Franklin car that we are trying to finish here before the end of this week, because we start getting our regular customers' cars for servicing before the season starts. So I'm not gonna go through the entire story of the Franklin car again. There's 9 episodes out there already, so you can go and see them from the beginning. I'm just gonna say that we have only the body here, and the body was in a very good shape rust-wise. I mean, there was a little bit rust on the seals and a little bit on the rear valance, that's it, and a little bit on the frame underneath that we fixed in the last episode. But it was in an accident and the front end was replaced, but not very well, so we had to redo it. In the last episode we dealt with the frame a little bit, and we actually tried to raise a little bit the rear end, because this is the common problem of the TR6, you know, that the rear end sags a little bit, just like, okay, I'm not gonna say it. We weren't very successful, but we were trying to do that because the gap behind the rear door, even though we fixed everything as much as we could, and the gaps were like 90%, but there's still another 10% of the rear gap that we want to improve, because at the top end it opens a little bit when we raise the car. So we used lasers and drawings, and we measured and we did lots of things, but it didn't budge. Like, it just remained where it was. So we're gonna have to figure out a different way to deal with the gap. But before we deal with that gap, today I'm gonna finish what we started in the beginning of last episode, and somehow we shifted to the frame repair and straightening. And what we started was the differential mounts. We need to reinforce them. They're not bad on this frame. These mounts are a known weak spot for TR6s, so they sell. Another one. Now we only have 2 left. So they sell those reinforcement kits that you can box the mounts with, and that makes them a little bit stronger. So we're gonna do that on this frame, even though it is not bad yet, but I'm sure it's gonna become bad. They all do. So without further ado, let's get crack-a-lacking. Alright, let's first see what we have in the kit. So we have 4 of these. These are the sides of the boxes. We're gonna go underneath in a minute and I'll show you. Then we have 2 of these. These are the top of the boxes. And surprisingly for me, we have 2 of these, which I'm not sure where they go. I'm assuming these are for on top of the frame, but I don't know. And that's it. Normally in the kits that I buy, this one was provided by David, the owner of the car, but normally in the kits that I buy, we also get the part that goes on top here, the one that we already have on the car, but they send you a replacement one. You cut off the old one and you replace it with this one. This kit doesn't include that, and it doesn't include the actual stud. So good thing our part that goes on top here is still solid on this car, and the studs are in a good shape, and we don't need them, but I don't know why they are not included here. Maybe where David bought the kit from, you could select which parts you want, and because he knew that these are good, he only bought these. I don't know. But let's go underneath and I'll show you how they go. This is the part that cracks usually on the right side here. The left one cracks later, but initially this is where the problems start, because of the way the crankshaft turns and the forces go in specific direction, I guess. Anyway, we don't need to go into the physics of all that, but for one reason or another, the right one cracks first, and usually it is right here, or it snaps off from here. But when you drive, when you go from reverse to forward or from forward to reverse, that's when this shifts somehow and it goes clunk, clunk. So when you hear a clunk, many times it is related to a crack on one of these. What I normally do is I cut completely this part off, the stud off, and if the body is off the frame, then I even drill the hole here. Then the new stud goes through that hole and sticks on top of the frame. Then on top of the frame I put this like this, and the stud goes through this hole as well, and then I weld it on the outside, and that makes the stud attached to the top of the frame pretty solid. Then I put the new part that is usually supplied with the kit that replaces this part, and then I weld it here and here and inside there as much as I can, and then I take the sides and I put them like this and like this, and then I weld them everywhere, and that's it. And we do that for both sides. When the body is on the frame and I don't have access to the top here, again I cut this part out, I cut the stud away, then I put this piece inside like this, and I put the stud here and I tack it in place and make sure that it is vertical and all that, like align it properly. And then I take this assembly out and I weld around everywhere, and I weld on the back side and grind it, and then I position it exactly where it needs to be with the stud attached to it already. And then I weld the piece on all sides, and then from there it is the same. I take this part, I put it on, and I put the sides on, and that's it. In this case though, since we are not replacing the stud and we're not replacing this part even, how do we put this piece? I assume that this piece goes here, and this one they provided for the outside to reinforce. Now, I'm not sure we need to reinforce the outside. When the body was off, I looked at it on top and it looked pretty solid. So how do we put this inside there? I don't want to cut this and remove it just to put this piece and then put this back in. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut a notch here like that. So we're gonna cut this off, and we're gonna put it from that side like this until the stud is inside, and then we can put this piece of metal back in from here and weld it if we want to, and we can weld the two sides just like normally and then put the sides. So that's the plan. All right, I didn't want to hold you here for the entire process because I've shown that many times on my channel, but I still left one side open here, which I still have to do, but I wanted to show you what is inside. So the piece on top, you see how I cut it, I put it on like we said, and I welded the little piece back. Then I welded around the stud as much as I could. Believe me, it's hard to weld there. So the piece on top is welded all four sides. I don't know how well you can see. It's not the greatest weld in the world, but it is what it is. And then on the outside, I still have to weld up on the top and this side, which is really hard. It's done here, if you can see it. It's really hard because you see I can't see what I'm doing as soon as I put the welder there, and I can't see anymore. You see, as soon as you move a little bit like that, and the frame is in your way. So it's really hard, but it's done. And especially this side here, absolutely no visibility. I can't even put you in a position so you can see it. Maybe I can shove you up there like that. No, not really. You see, it's not that easy. But anyways, it's done. This side is the easiest because you have access from all over the place, and of course the two stitches on top everywhere. So that's it. I'm gonna close this one now. I'm gonna weld it all over. I'm gonna weld the other side as well, and then we're gonna move to something else. I mean, under here we only have to weld right here. We're gonna have to clean a little bit and weld nuts because all three here are snapped. Here we have one, if I remember correctly. Not even one. Oh, we had three here. Wow, look at that. It's a luxury. And here we have none. So we have to find some nuts for here. And that's gonna be everything for under the car. And then we're gonna go above. And I don't know if you see all these on the floor, like this, and this, and that, and all these around. These are all hot chunks of metal that fall right on top of me and burn through and come and burn my body and my private parts. Believe me, it's not easy. Okay, it's all welded now and it looks pretty good. This is very, very solid now. I don't have paint, unfortunately. Like I said, I don't have bed liner. So when I buy bed liner, I'm gonna paint this and this. And now I went ahead and I made on my lathe these nuts. I already lost one. I need 11. But I just turned them down. This is 460 thou diameter. And I cleaned these surfaces as much as I can. So this now can go there. And I need it like that so it can be centered. It's not gonna keep it. Okay, now we lost two. It's not gonna keep it there. I'm gonna put a bolt to hold it there, but at least it's gonna be centered on the hole, because if I don't center them, one might end up this way, one might end up this way, and then if the body moves a little bit, I'm gonna lose the alignment. So let me dive underneath now and find both nuts that I lost. They just disappear on me. It was not easy to find 11 of those. I only have the 9 lock nuts and they stink when you weld them, like really bad. So anyways, I'm gonna do that and then we will see what we're gonna do next. So these are now all welded. The welds don't look beautiful, but believe me, it's really hard to weld there. There's no angle, like you can't point in the right angle, the welder. It's important that they are strong. They're not beautiful, but who cares? I also reinforced the original ones, the ones that didn't snap, but since all the other 11 snapped, that something is telling me that these are gonna snap too, so I welded those as well. And these ones here. So finally I can tell we are done here underneath. We just need to paint. All right, we're finally above the car. We can see some daylight, and this is what we're gonna try to repair now. Like, again, I don't know what happened here. Somebody suggested that they bent this in order to take the gas tank out in this direction, but why would they do that? I have no idea. Plus, why would they cut the support that goes up? Like, I don't know. On this side they kept the gasket in one piece, but the support that goes up is cut. So that's what I'm gonna do next. Let me try to straighten it. And then there's one more thing, which is this hole. We're gonna have to fill this up and make it smooth. Here as well, look, they used pry bars and stuff. Like, I don't know why they did that. Maybe this body was in a scrapyard already and they just wanted the gas tank. I have no idea, but let's see if we can straighten that. Okay, so this is all repaired now, and this is also repaired. So this structure is good. Now let's take care of this and that. Now we have a pretty thick layer of paint here that is actually affecting us, because now this circle is coming up to the level of the paint, and believe me, this paint is thick. Okay, almost invisible. If you squint from 10 feet, nobody's gonna notice it there. No, honestly, it's nice. So I think that might have been the last welding on the car. So it's late in the evening, night actually. It is after dinner. I came out for a power hour. What? You wanna go inside? Yeah, okay, soon. So I'm just gonna primer that, and then tomorrow we're gonna start dealing with the body again and with the gaps. We're gonna put the fender, the door, and the other fender on, and we're gonna start shimming it again. And once we get the gaps right, we're gonna call it done. All right, so it's the next day, and I finally took my time and cleaned up some tools and organized the shop again. It was such a mess. I haven't organized it in weeks, and I was having a hard time finding tools actually. So now it is, well, kind of organized. Anyway, so it is time to put this side together and see if we can fix all the gaps again. So we should be able to bring it back to the same shape it was before, right? When the gap here was kind of okay, and up here was a little bit too wide. But you never know, right? Because we replaced the seal meanwhile, and we never fitted all the stuff after that. But we know that the top of the door is braced here, and the bottom we never took apart completely. So it should be where it used to be, but we also removed the body mounts from here and from here and there, so we don't know. We'll see. I'm gonna put everything together. I'm not gonna hold you here. I'm gonna put everything together, and then we're gonna look at it together, and we'll see what shims we need to put everywhere. Because ta-da! Well, looks like ta-da, but it's not ta-da, because we're not ready. I mean, the door is just randomly positioned there, the front fender as well. I just wanted to start positioning the rear fender where it's gonna be, because it is kind of limited where it can go, right? It attaches to the body, so we need to attach it as best as we can height-wise here. We have height limitations here, which right now it is kind of centered a little bit lower than this and a little bit higher than this, so it is kind of centered. But also we have limitation of how far back and forth it needs to go. Also right there inside we have bolts that hold it to the B-post, so we don't have lots of movement available here. And I did pretty well here. Before it was much higher than this, than the deck here. So now I was able to attach it. Look at that, it's a little bit lower here, but not too bad. I mean, now it looks bad because it's different colors, but if you look at it this way, you see it's not much lower. It might be a little bit lower, but it's also because of the natural curve. The problem is here. This is a little bit higher, and unfortunately there's nothing we can do about that, because here it comes even again. So only in this area from here to here the fender is a little bit higher. Maybe after it's bolted here and here, I'm gonna try to push it down and tighten the bolts. These are not even tight now, but I don't think that's possible. I mean, there's flange going down here, so it is really it's gonna be really tricky. Maybe if I pull this way, that end is gonna go down a little. I don't know, we'll work on that. But one thing that concerns me is here, this step. That's way too big of a step here. I don't like it, but I think it is possible this to be bent out. So I'm gonna try to do that. You see this line here? This whole thing might be able to come out like this. For that though, I have to take the fender out again. Or maybe if I can just open it and put a pry bar gently here and just try to open it. Here it's not gonna bend, which is good, because here we have this plate that is holding it, but here we don't have anything. So I'm hoping that this is gonna be the line that this thing is gonna use as a pivot, and it's gonna come out. That's the only problem that I see. Everything else, here we made it nice and smooth where we replaced this patch, remember? Okay, that actually kind of worked. I mean, there's still a little bit of a step, but I hope you saw it at some point. The whole thing just pulled up, which was great. There's still a very, very little step, like it is almost unnoticeable. Again, it looks bigger because they are different colors, but look, it's pretty good. Now, this is also a little bit further out now, but you know what? This is bothering me less than what this was here. This is, it's even here, and here it is out, but it is what it is. I mean, this is not bad at all. This is again where we wanted it. I think it's even better now. Now it is only from here to here. I don't know how that happened, but now this gap is horrible, but have in mind that the body is not mounted at all here. We don't have any bolts here. We don't have this bolt here. So we still have the option to adjust the top of this gap with shims. The front of the door, actually just wanted to show you that the door is a little bit lower here, but it's also a little bit lower here. So the whole door needs to come up, which is good. The problem is that this gap is a little bit too small, and it's not bad. I mean, it's good as a gap, but the problem is when this gap is too small, this corner starts touching there when you open, and you see if the door goes a little bit higher, it's definitely gonna touch there. But you see this fender has some metal here that I should have ground before, so I'm thinking I'm gonna take this fender out now and I'm gonna grind this on the inside, and if that creates trouble, I might even weld a little bit again and then grind again, so we can make it nice and thin there and no extra metal that we don't need. And that's going to give us the possibility to raise the door up, and if we are able to keep everything as it is right now, I'm pretty happy with this gap, and I'm pretty happy with the bottom of this gap. The top we should be able to adjust with the shims. Okay, you see what I'm talking about? This is actually this flange that was bent in. They just cut it off here so they can make this shape, but they just let it stick out. So I don't want to grind it, because if I grind it, we're going to have a single layer of metal here, which is not great. So I'm going to try to bend it in with a little bit of a hammer and dolly. That's much better now. Even the gap is still a little bit too small. Maybe we should move the door back. But now here, you see, this is so much better. So we can move the door up a little bit, I believe. And both sides, I mean, the whole entire door needs to go up. So here, we don't have the step anymore. And here, it's not bolted yet, but when it's bolted, it's gonna stay down. So yeah, progress. All right, so we made some good progress here. Everything is attached with most of its hardware. Not all of it, not all of the fasteners are on, but most of them. So it's holding nicely. Here we are good now. The door is now raised a little bit. I know the gap is still not great. We're gonna deal with that. This one doesn't look bad at all. And this fender is attached solidly as well. I had to play with the bonnet for some reason. I don't know why. I had to move it after I had the fenders off, and I replaced the seal on this side. When I put the fenders on, the bonnet didn't line up. I had to actually move the bonnet from the hinges inside, but it worked well. Now we have a nice gap here, and we have a nice gap here. This here lines up pretty well. This one is a little bit off, but I'm good with that. I mean, it's not that critical. And this side I haven't touched a lot, because now I think I'm gonna have to remove this fender actually, because we want to deal with the gaps, like I said. But I remember that I have more welding. I said that I don't have any more welding, but actually remember we said that we want to deal with this step here, because the flange of the seal was not long enough here in the front. There it was just long enough, but here it is a little bit too short, and we don't like that. So I'm gonna weld a strip of metal here, and then I'm gonna grind it flat to this. For that, of course, I'm gonna have to remove the fender. And while it is out, remember we also had another problem here. We had this strap here that was on the wrong side. I kept it, I haven't forgotten about that. I took it off, and now we're gonna have to modify it, which is not so easy, because you see it has a shape, but so that's how it was here. Like, I don't know how they made such a stupid mistake. Kind of reverse all these flanges here. I don't know. We're gonna have to deal with that while the fender is out. That looks better, doesn't it? I didn't have any more primer or anything, so I just painted it with white paint. Something to prevent it from the surface rust. But yeah, 100% better. So now to this part here. Okay, so this is now ready. I also sprayed with the white paint. I sprayed here the front valance because it was bare metal, and I found actually some kind of a black undercoating paint in my cabinets, and I painted the differential mounts and the shirt, because once we drop the car down, I don't want to have to come underneath again. I think now we are in a position where we can actually put it on its own wheels and see what we can do with the body mounts to improve the gaps. Like this one is not too bad. I mean, it's a little bit open, but again, here as well we have this brace, so we don't know in reality what the gap is gonna look like when we remove the brace. And this one is more open, but anyway, let's drop it down. Well, my gimbal turned off again, I'm sorry. So the camera didn't catch what happened when I removed the brace, but watch the second one. It's the same as what happened with the first one. Let's see this side. Holy moly! Okay, so you see our body is also like, wow. Wow, wow, wow. All right, so that wasn't unexpected, right? Because we knew that in the second episode, we had the gaps this big, and when we bolted the body to the frame, that's when the gaps went and they closed. But I was hoping that as the body sits for a while like that, it was gonna relax in this new old shape, but it didn't. It sprang right back. But it's not a big deal, we can fix that. First of all, we're gonna remove these gaskets completely so they don't prevent us from bending it back. And then what we're gonna do, we're gonna put the braces back again. And these are smart braces. We have left and right thread here. It's like turnbuckle, because when we turn it in the middle, we make it shorter. So what I'm gonna do actually is I'm gonna remove even these nuts from here. I don't think we need them. So I have more room to shrink it. And we're gonna put both of them. We're gonna open the doors. We're gonna jack the rear end up, but not through the frame, only the body. We're gonna put probably a piece of plywood or something under the rear floor. And then we're gonna start tightening the buckles here, raising more from there. We're gonna try to bend it more than what we want it to be bent until we are not able to close the doors anymore. And we will see if we can bend it back up, because we know that this happened when the car was delivered to David from Texas. He bought it sight unseen, and when the car came, it was trapped somehow in a very weird way, and the gaskets got ripped from there. So we're gonna finish ripping them completely, and we're gonna go from there. But that's gonna happen in the next episode, because it turns out we have a lot more work on this car. I didn't expect that. I was hoping to fit everything in this one last episode, but judging by the footage that I have more than enough for another episode now, so I decided to end it here. By all means, the car is done. You see, now we have good gaps here. We have everything. It is completed. We've done the last repair on the frame as well. I actually took her out so I can film the ending of my last video for the series around the car. So you're gonna see that in the next video. So we're gonna cut it short. I don't know, maybe I could have fitted the other footage in another half an hour and make 1 hour video, but you know what? It's Saturday today and I want to post what I have so far. So you're gonna see the rest in the next one. This one we're gonna end here. So thank you guys for watching, commenting, subscribing, sharing, and supporting the channel. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.